Okay, so there's a movie coming out called The Night House. I saw the trailer. I don't remember anything from the trailer, so at the time of this recording, I don't really know what that movie is supposed to be about. But when I saw the trailer, I made a note to make a video about The Others. So something about the trailer reminded me of The Others, starring Nicole Kidman. So, I rewatched The Others. I've only seen this one time, and later on, pretty soon in this video, I'm going to get into some spoiler stuff, but I'll try to get my main thoughts out first. But there are several reveals, and I would say one big twist in this movie, and I only remembered the one big one. So rewatching it a second time, even though I knew the big twist, there were still a few smaller reveals that I had forgotten about, which made it enjoyable to watch again a second time. I kind of have to skim through my notes for things that do and do not include spoilers. So I guess the biggest thing with this movie, let me talk about my relationship with horror movies. So I enjoy thrillers. I enjoy suspense movies. I am fine with movies that have, monsters of different kinds, whether that be a vampire or a werewolf or, a kraken or something like that. I'm fine with, slashers where there's one main killer. And you can call me a baby if you want to, but I get scared, like actually scared, by supernatural films. Things with ghosts, things with demons, things like that. Because those are things that in my brain, I can't explain away as easily, right? I can explain away that there's not going to be a monster outside. I can explain away that Michael Myers isn't going to come to my house. I can explain away that vampires aren't real. But supernatural things, in my mind, I can't be certain that they couldn't exist. And when things of that nature are, evil for the sake of evil, for instance, I can't take myself out of the equation, right? Michael Myers targets his victims, but evil targets everyone. So some of the movies that scare me the most are things like a Paranormal Activity or something like that. And a lot of people say that those movies aren't scary at all to them. Fine. To me, they are for those reasons. Now, this movie, The Others, it is more of a supernatural movie, but I would classify this more as spooky than scary. I'm a big baby when it comes to supernatural stuff, and I do not consider this a scary movie. There is one jump scare in the whole movie, and as I'm rewatching it, I was hoping that I would be able to say that it doesn't do any jump scares. There's one, which is, not bad compared to what you have today. If this was made today, which they say that they're going to be remaking it, who knows if that's going to happen or not, but I feel like if this was made today, there would be jump scares with birds or raccoons or other people, that are just happening to walk in at the wrong time, and there would be jump scares out the wazoo. There's one jump scare in this movie, but this movie does a lot with suspense. It does a lot with the lighting and the camera angle and the music. So, I think for a lot of people, they would be disappointed in this movie. I think a lot of people would think that it's a lot of build-up for no scare. This movie, I don't think, is a scary movie. I don't think you should expect to get scared. And I don't remember trailers for this or how it was marketed. I just found it at a Goodwill one day, I think, and threw it in the bag. So I don't know how it was marketed, but compared to something like the Blair Witch Project, right, where they say things like, oh, it's so scary, or it's the scariest movie of all time, whatever they said about it, it was marketed as a scary movie, as a horror film. And this, my perception of it is more of a supernatural suspense or thriller film. So if you are somebody that does not like a lot of build-up for not a lot of scare, then you might not like this movie. But if you are someone that can enjoy the atmosphere of the movie and the process of going through that, and this movie really focuses on the characters and their experiences, I think this is a really good movie if you enjoy things like that, which I do if I know that that's what I'm getting in for, or getting into. But my first note was that the opening credits are very boring because there's a very long opening credits sequence that just shows kind of some random images. So it takes a while to get into the movie, but I think that kind of helps set your expectation because the whole movie is pretty slow. And I tried to pay attention to the time. So the whole movie is about an hour 45 with credits, and within the half hour, you're like into it. As opposed to some other movies where it would take half the movie just to get to the main thing. Like, you're into it half an hour in, and it's less than 2 hours long. But you spend a lot of time there before you get to the ending, and the ending is where you really find out what's going on. There are different things that happen throughout the movie that might make you think, oh, this is what's going on, or oh, this is what's going on, or oh, this is what's going on. But by the time you really either figure it out or, the movie tells you what's going on, it's pretty close to the end. So you spend a lot of time in the middle just being in that situation, and it's really putting you in the footsteps, in the shoes of the characters of the movie. So if that's the kind of thing you can get behind, you'll probably really enjoy this movie. If not, you probably won't. As soon as the credits are over, there is a scream just out of nowhere. And, I'm now rethinking this. Because like I said, I've only rewatched this once. And it's just the kind of movie that, if you're like me, you might want to rewatch as soon as you finished it. That's how The Prestige was with me. And there are a couple other movies like that where you figure something out and then you want to go back and see it. And I haven't done it. And I didn't think much of it, but I was taking notes. And so now I've just finished the movie and I'm looking through these notes. At the time, it seemed like the scream was random and out of nowhere and didn't really make any sense. And it's like they're just trying to start off with a scare, I guess. But after all the reveals, I think maybe that there is a purpose to that scream. Now I'm curious. I might have to go back and check out the opening scene. Anyway, big scream at the beginning of the movie. And the only reason I wrote it down is because I had two dogs that I'm dog sitting that were playing around in front of the TV. And as soon as it screamed, they both just did stare at the TV for a while, which I thought was pretty funny. There's a lot of Christian imagery and ideology in this movie. So depending on how you feel about how movies portray that kind of stuff, that might affect your enjoyment of the movie. If you're someone that takes those ideas very seriously, you might get upset that this movie might choose not to take those things so seriously. If you're someone that doesn't like that at all in your movie, it's going to be in this movie a lot. If you're someone like me who can, deal with it and it doesn't really bother you, if a make-believe movie wants to say one thing or the other about it, then you should be fine. But there's a lot of that in this movie. And two of the main characters are children. And I kept asking myself, are these good child actors or are they not? And the fact that I had to keep asking myself that, I think means that the answer is not that they're not. But it's very strange because it's a period piece which takes place in the 40s. So all the characters are kind of a little stiff and they're all speaking very proper English with English accents. At least the main family all have the English accents. And so I think it works, particularly with how Nicole Kidman plays her character, very stiff and very stoic for the most part. And so these kids, they don't really show a whole lot of emotion or excitement or things that, kids would. But it seems like that's just how they were raised and that's how they were taught to behave. So I think it works. If you are, looking for a flaw, weak child acting, particularly the younger boy. There's an older girl and a younger boy. And particularly the younger boy, he's one of those child actors that always has a face that looks like he's both confused and sick at the same time. But he doesn't have as much to do as the older girl, and I think she does a lot better job. There's a weird aspect to her, but I don't think it's because she was a bad actress. I think it's because that's the movie. And so I think it fits with everything else that's going on. So it didn't stick out to me. I questioned it multiple times, and I couldn't come up with a definitive answer. So to me, that means they were at least fine. They weren't a problem. Throughout the movie, I wrote down different things. They don't really feel like they warrant talking about in this video. Or they were things that there was a question that was answered later on, so I don't want to talk about. So I think that's all the notes that I want to talk about pre-spoilers. So if you haven't seen this movie and you don't want to hear about what happens, I would end the video now. Thank you for watching. Goodbye. If you've already seen this and you want to know what my thoughts are on the twists, or if you don't care about spoilers, I'm going to get into spoilers now. So the bulk of the movie concerns this family, Nicole Kidman and her children, and then there's these group of 3 servants that work at the same house, and the movie kind of tells you that there are ghosts in the house, and slowly different characters interpret that in different ways, but at a certain point it's a ghost story, right? And the Nicole Kidman's character, the mother, Grace, she's kind of on board with this idea that there are ghosts in the house. There are people in our house. They're not human. They're not real. Blah, blah, blah. And the movie also kind of starts showing the servants in this shady kind of light. Like maybe they're up to something. And then there's a weird thing with the husband, who at the beginning of the movie they say he went off to the war, which is over at this point, and she hasn't heard anything. So the implication is that he died in the war. And he shows up again out of nowhere. It's not really explained. And then while he's there, the mom just totally ignores all the ghost stuff that was going on. And whereas before she was extremely concerned and they live in a very remote area, and she's getting ready to go to town to get help because she's so concerned. And then once the father's there, she's not concerned at all, as if she forgot it. So that's a little strange. And then the father just leaves again. So I don't know. I'm not totally sure why they felt the need to put him in there. I get, it's one of those things that I guess adds to the runtime, because I heard that this idea was taken from an episode of television, so you gotta pad it out some way. So I don't think that element of it was great, but it wasn't, I don't know. It sets up some stuff that is revealed later, so it adds to the intrigue, even if it doesn't really add to the plot or the current situation that we're in. But anyway, he leaves, ghost stuff starts happening again, and if you watch typical horror movies, you're all in at this point that there are ghosts in this house, right? And it is revealed at one point that all the servants are dead. They died 50, 60 years before. And so then at that point you're like, oh my gosh, these servants are the ghosts and they're haunting these people, and there's other ghosts in the house, maybe? Because there are some times where she thinks that the noises that she's hearing are the servants, but then there are other times where she sees all the servants outside and she still hears things in the house. So it's are there more ghosts? What's going on? Blah, 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 blah. And then, right at the end, I didn't check the time, but probably within the last 5 or 10 minutes, right at the end, you find out the big twist, which is that the main characters that we've been following this whole time, the family, they are the ghosts. They have been killed. They are dead. And the ghosts that they are interacting with are the new people that are moving into this house. And so, we always think of ghost stories from our point of view and how, they kind of fade in and out, and sometimes we can see them and sometimes we can't, blah, 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 blah. And this kind of spins that. And it's like the relationship is the same. They're always there, but we can't always see them because the world of the living and the world of the dead don't line up, but sometimes they pass through each other. So that's the big twist. That's the thing that I remembered, which is that the main characters were dead the whole time. I didn't remember specifically about the servants. So I was trying to figure out when I was watching it, I was like, are these guys like, not paranormal investigators? That's not something that you would have called them back then, but, seances or mediums or whatever. Because knowing the twist ahead of time, even forgetting everything else, you get the sense that when you rewatch it, you get the sense that the servants, they have put the responsibility on themselves to bring, particularly the mother, bring her to an understanding that she and her kids are dead and that they are ghosts. So that's why they seem kind of shady, is because that they have this knowledge and this awareness that the main family doesn't have. But then the other, not a twist, but revelation, is that the mother is the one who killed them all. And it's revealed that she smothered both of her kids with a pillow and then shot herself in the head with a shotgun. And when I'm watching the reveal, because I had totally forgotten about that part, so when I was watching that reveal this time, I was like, why though? They never explain why she went mad and why she did that. And I was waiting for them to do it, and they didn't. So I thought, was it because she saw some of these other ghosts? Because the servants it's unclear. The servants died, I think, in 1891. The main story takes place, I believe, in 1945. It's unclear when the main family died. But I think it's right before the movie starts. And I'll come back to that in a minute. So I think from their point of view, we're mostly seeing it in real time, and they are recently dead, and there's new people moving in over the next several weeks or whatever. So I thought maybe that she, they were going to say that she went mad because she's seeing other ghosts and it's implied at the end that multiple families that have lived in this house, because that's what the servants say, is that they used to work in this house before and then they left and they came back. So it's implied that multiple families that have lived in this house, their spirits are still living here, and we've just only seen the two. So I was like, maybe she went mad because she's seen these other ghosts before. But a thought I had afterwards when I was trying to piece together everything is, I think it was that the father was gone. I think it was her grief at not knowing for certain. Because when the father comes back, which, it's a ghost. The ghost comes back and leaves, which is still weird. But she says something to him along the line. She says something like, they said there was no hope. So it seems like she knows that if he was alive, he should be back by now. He's not back. And it seems like she's gotten vague answers when she's asked the army, where is he? And they can't confirm that he's dead or not. So I think that that's what drove her mad. And she couldn't stand the thought of it, which, it's hard to rationalize why someone would murder their two children and then kill themselves. But I think that's it. And then going back to the scream at the beginning of the film, I think that's right after. Because it's a little exposition heavy. It's a little heavy-handed how they do it, but, they got to do what they got to do. At the very end of the movie, the last scene, she's, explaining to her kids what she did. And so she, explains that she smothered them and that she shot herself, and then she says that after she shot herself, she was just still in the house, and she heard the kids, and so she thought that God had given her a second chance, and whatever that meant to her, right? So I wonder if her scream at the beginning of the film is like that moment where she killed herself and she passes into the, the afterlife, and she screams while she wakes up. Because it appears when you're watching the movie that she's waking up as if she had a nightmare. So I'm wondering if she thought that the events that she actually did were a nightmare. And so we're kind of seeing right after that point is when the movie picks up. I don't know that for sure. Like I said, I might have to check it out again. That's where my brain is at right now. So we pick up immediately after she's killed the three of them. And so there's another thing that I made notes of that it seemed strange when I was watching the movie. But at one point, Grace, the mother, sees, I think the daughter's name is Anne, but it's a different woman, which we find out later is the medium. And so they say that Anne was possessing the medium. But for whatever reason, the mother sees this other woman in her daughter's clothes, and she attacks her. And then, she rips the veil off or whatever, and it's revealed that, no, it is Anne. And, oh my gosh, I was just attacking my child. And Anne freaks out, and she runs towards the servant, and she's talking to her brother, and she says something along the lines of, she won't stop until she kills us all. And, watching it, having not remembered the fact that the mother did kill them, it seemed like it came out of nowhere, and it seemed like, wow, that kid really jumped from my mom is confused and she's kind of shaking me to my mom wants to kill everyone. And so I made a note of it because I was like, why did she jump there so fast? But then after the reveal at the end of, oh, she literally killed them all. So the kids apparently have some memory of that. And it's said when the father is there, he tells the wife that the daughter told him about what happened that day. And we don't know what it is at that point. But that implies that the children know what happened. Or at least the daughter does. Maybe the son doesn't. And the daughter, she's the one that has the most interaction with the others, right? The living people in their house. So maybe that's why she sees them more and talks to them more than the mother or the son. Because she remembers what happened and she understands that she's dead. And, they talk about different versions of the afterlife and hell and limbo and purgatory and things like that. So that's my working theory, is that the movie starts with the mother waking up dead after she killed both of her children. She thinks that was a dream. There's also a big thing about the last servants left in the middle of the night. They didn't even tell us goodbye, blah, 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 blah. And it's you figure it out. It's like, oh yeah, because the people they worked for died. So yeah, they're going to get out of there pretty quickly. So they wake up. The plan was to hire new servants, but it's this other group of servants who just happen to show up, which she doesn't realize at first. The mother doesn't realize at first. She thinks that they're responding to an advertisement. And then she finds out later that the advertisement was not posted. So they're like, well, we just came and checked because big houses like this usually need help. So we just came out, we just came to see if you needed help. But I think really, and it seems to be solidifying into place as I'm thinking about this in real time on video, that the servants who were already dead, if that was, the morning of or pretty much right after she killed them, the servants who are already dead and aware that they're dead kind of take it upon themselves to bring this family to an understanding. So they show up as, servants or whoever. And it's unclear if they were servants of other people that lived in the house before or if they were the ones that owned the house before. But they're not a family, so I think they were servants. But anyway, that's not important. So they come into the fold. We're introduced to the children. There's a whole thing about, being allergic to light, which helps with the atmosphere of this movie, so I don't want to touch on it too much. Some people might think it's contrived, but allergy? That's the word I'm looking for. Allergy to sunlight is a real thing. It's rare, but it's real, so I'm fine with it. I think it works for the story. And then we see this family starting with the daughter, and then a little bit more with the son, and then eventually the mother, coming to terms with the fact that they are dead and no longer of this world. We get this weird thing with the father who comes and then leaves. Still not a big fan of that. It does help reveal more information. I guess I'm confused as to why he leaves. Like, I would buy it if he came back and stayed. It's weird that he leaves, though. I might have to rewatch that scene, too, to see if he says why he's leaving. She says something along the lines, when she still thinks that they're alive, that, you know, being here in this house all alone with him was enough for her, but he wasn't, or she wasn't enough for him. And so he leaves, and that's why he, like, went off to war. But I don't know if that translates into the afterlife or not. So that's still confusing. But anyway, gradually they all find out we're dead. The ghosts in our house are living people. We're the ghosts. And the people that have moved in are now moving out because they're freaked out by all these ghosts that they've been seeing. And so the servants tell the mother, they're like, we have to learn to live with the other families that will be here. And you know, kind of tolerate them. And the mother has this moment with her children where she's like, this is our house. Nobody can make us leave our house. And it's pretty ominous. And so, I read that they're making a remake to this. I think I would rather see not necessarily a sequel, but like a part 2, like a pickup, you know, not necessarily with the same characters, but pick up from that idea. And it's like, now that you know you're dead and other people are trying to live in your house, are you going to be benevolent? Are you going to let them? Are you going to, you know, play around, play tricks with them, play games with them? Or are you going to be evil and force them out and terrify them and things like that? So that, I think, would be interesting to see coming from this point. But it's like, you can't start a movie there, really. I mean, I guess you could. You could just say, like, hey, we're ghosts, and we're gonna haunt these people. And there are movies out there like that. But I guess continuing on the journey from these characters that you've gotten to know and that you've understood, and then seeing how they react once they finally understand everything. I don't know. I think that's pretty interesting. I don't think we're going to get that, though. So, I've rambled for half an hour on this movie. Holy cow. I didn't even write down that many notes. Didn't think I'd have that much to say, but I guess when you got a big twist, and I had some revelations clicking into place as I was talking. So, hopefully it wasn't too ranty and too random, but those are my thoughts on the movie. The others, again, I have no idea how closely this movie will be to The Night House, so maybe it'll be very similar. Maybe it will be nothing alike. I don't know, but hopefully it gets me in the mood for some spookiness. But those are my thoughts on the others. If you've seen it, feel free to let me know what you think. Is there something that didn't make sense to me that made sense to you, and then you can help me understand? I would really appreciate that. But that's all I've got. Thank you for watching, and have a good day.